to turn the tables on Nyquist, who's down the rail in the final furlong of the Preakness. Strawberries move to third. Nyquist clambering in. There is Exaggerator, and Kent Desormer on the 16th pole from Nyquist. Exaggerator in the Preakness turns the
Bobby Shoemaker, Andrew Calvano. Tournament talk on the Tournament Edge for Friday, May 27th. 4 races on the agenda as always. We've got 2 at Santa Anita this week and 2 more at beautiful Belmont Park. But Andrew, before we go into the races for this weekend, I wanted to talk a little bit about the Preakness Stakes last week. Exaggerator, your winner. Wanted to get your thoughts on Exaggerator going forward and in the Preakness specifically, and also wanted to get your thoughts overall on the race. So you go first. Exaggerator, your winner. Your thoughts on his performance?
Yeah, much the best. Great run there by Exaggerator, especially when the track came up sloppy. I think it changed a lot of bettors' minds, and made them realize that Exaggerator is not just this horse that's been chasing Nyquist for a while. This horse actually has something in the tank. So I think he ran a great race, proving that it's a good racehorse and is going to have a very valuable summer. The point I was going to make is very different from the way you and I saw the Kentucky Derby. A lot of closers did their part in the Preakness. You had Cherry Wine, Exaggerator, even horses like Lanny actually closed very well. So moving on, with a bunch of those horses going into the Belmont, we'll see how that goes, but overall, Exaggerator, much the best. Nyquist, I don't know if what they saw after the race was, in him during the race. Maybe that's why, but incredible fractions. I did not see that really coming, and that was Nyquist's downfall.
For me, Andrew, and as you know, I picked Exaggerator to win the Preakness for 2 reasons. I thought, first of all, the sloppy conditions certainly fit his skill set because we had seen him perform admirably twice over a sloppy going, specifically the Santa Anita Derby. Mm-hmm. But I also picked him because if you looked at the racing form, you could see that there were a lot of horses that wanted to go to the lead. And I thought, considering the sloppy conditions, Doug would tell Mario, you need to get to the lead because this horse has never taken kickback of that nature. And you know as well as I do, there's a difference between fast and dry kickback and muddy kickback. It's a complete different story. Horses a lot of times don't react very well. So I knew he was going to go to the lead, and I knew there were going to be horses like Uncle Lino that were going to challenge him. Now, did I imagine the fastest first quarter in Preakness history? I absolutely didn't. But I knew the race was over when Kent made that middle move and got closer to the first pack of horses, saving all the ground. It was a great ride by Kent, and I thought it was the perfect storm, no pun intended, for Exaggerator. My thoughts overall, though, on the race, I don't think there's a question that Nyquist is the best 3-year-old in America. He got a suspect ride after his position was gained. After the first quarter, I thought Mario certainly could have let Uncle Lino go by him at that juncture because there was no kickback at that point because he was in the 2 or 3 path with no other horses in front of him. And for him to re-rally after being passed at the rail just shows the gut, the grit, the determination, and the talent of this racehorse. But sometimes, Andrew, and you know as well as I do, the best horse doesn't always win the race. And I thought that he was up against it from a pace perspective, and I think the off conditions certainly played a part in that as well. But I have even more respect for Nyquist after the Preakness than I did after the Derby, in which he was ultra impressive with as well. So my question to you is your thoughts on Nyquist after these first 2 legs, because unfortunately we won't see him in the Belmont Stakes.
Yeah, nothing you can really knock on the horse. I mean, going into the race, he was the best horse in the country, probably still is. 8 for 8, look at the races he's won. I mean, champion 2-year-old. You can't knock him. And it's like American Fair. He lost the Travers, but we still look at him as the greatest horse of maybe all time for generations like me.
Absolutely.
So you can't knock him on that one loss, and you know what? He's going to come back and have a great summer.
I want to ask you about Mario Gutierrez. He's taken a lot of heat this week from a lot of quote-unquote experts, including Andy Beyer, who was very critical of Mario on Steve Bick earlier this week. Your thoughts on Mario Gutierrez's ride and your thoughts on the speculation or some people saying that he shouldn't be back on Nyquist next time out?
I don't like to get too much into that stuff. And be caught saying something, I don't want to repeat it. The way I look at it is, he was on the best horse, and he tried to ride him like he was the best horse. Did Mario know that he was going to, break that quarter, go that super fast? I don't know. I mean, obviously questionable, what he was doing, going into that first quarter and challenging a horse like that, who he would pass eventually just because he's a more dominant animal. But, you can't knock guys like this. You don't know what the game plan was. You don't know if Doug O'Neill told him to get him out there right away. You never know. So, nothing you can knock. I mean, afterward, it seemed like he was all class. He put in a nice post for his fans. And like you said, at the end of the day, he was the best horse, and maybe he rode him like that.
I don't understand the criticism of Mario as a whole. Did he make a mistake in this race? Yes. However, people are acting like he's some journeyman rider and some bottom-of-the-barrel jockey, and that's far from being true.
No.
And the last time I checked, the first 8 times he rode this horse, he did a very good job.
Yep.
I think the criticism for this race specifically, Andrew, is certainly warranted because I think if he would have gotten a better ride, I would have been wrong in my selection, and we may be looking at a chance for a Triple Crown because that temperature may have been forgotten about, but that's neither here nor there. I don't think he should be off this horse in the least. He's earned the right historically to be on horses like this. Is he Rafael Bejarano? No, but who is? Is he Javier Castellano? No, but who is? So I think the criticism is warranted for this specific ride, but I don't think the criticism is warranted for his career as a whole.
No, without a doubt. And I mean, jockeys are humans just like you and I. They make some mistakes or, they can't win every race. And I mean, it's just like a Thursday at Santa Anita. You know what I mean? I mean, they're going to make mistakes on those horses too. You really can't blame the guy. He's all class, and the horse's record speaks for himself.
One more thing about this Triple Crown sequence. Obviously, no Nyquist exaggerator going forward. He's going to be the odds-on favorite. Just a quick glance ahead. Do you like his chances moving forward in this race?
Yeah, I think it takes a lot of consideration. I mean, when we did the Santa Anita Derby show, I was right on him because sloppy track. I saw a lot of pace, and you saw the same thing going into the Preakness. If it's a sloppy track, the horse will be 3-5. But it doesn't seem like there's too much speed signed up. And I hate to be, the Pletcher guy, in his home arena at Belmont Park, but his horses do have a pace advantage. But until, forms are out and we see all those entered, and if it's a sloppy track, it's probably exaggerated race.
No, and before we move on, I got to say this too. I was very critical of Exaggerator before the Kentucky Derby. He's certainly a lot better than what I thought he was, and I think that Saturday's performance had a lot more to do with the pace than the slop. I mean, this horse is a good horse. He's better than I thought, and he took advantage of the pace scenario, and he took advantage of a tremendous ride by Kent DeSormo, who on his best day is as good as any jockey in the United States. So before we do move forward with our 4 races, we had a lot of good races at Pimlico, Andrew, on Saturday, and I hate to put you on the spot here, but if there's one performance that sticks out to you, barring Exaggerator, what performance would that be, and what horse do you want going forward?
Definitely Justin Square. Justin Square was the one horse in that Chick Lang Stakes, and Bob, I texted you before the race. I said, Bobby, this could be the next Private Zone.
And you were right.
Yeah, that horse, sure did do his part. He looked brilliant. It looked like he was a little tired going to the stretch, and some horses were going to pass him, but he had a new gear, put the rest of the field away, and coming out of that race, this horse looks like a very good horse in the near future.
I knew you were going to say him, so I went a different route. But before I go that route, he looks monstrous. I mean, that horse is private zone to a T, so hats off to you. You nailed that. He is scary. He's going to win a lot of graded stakes races and a lot of grade ones, in my opinion. But I'm going to go with American Freedom. This horse wheeled back 2 weeks after setting ungodly fractions with my horse, Sharp Azteca, and I thought lost to who, you and I both feel like is going to be a major player in the 3-year-old circuit. A lot of people questioned the wheel back by Bob, but I thought it was a positive that Bob would put him in a race like that. And again, set fast fractions, didn't do it by himself, and held off closers late. And I hate to go back to Sharp Azteca, Andrew, but how good does this make Sharp Azteca look now, considering the performance of American Freedom on Saturday, which wasn't as good as Justin Squared, but held his own?
Yeah, and I think there's 2 next out winners out of that Sharp Azteca race, if I'm remembering properly on the top of my head. So really, any horse coming out of that field is to be respected. We talked about Sharp Azteca 2 weeks ago when I was back on, but like you said, American Freedom, we spoke about him on the show we were covering on Derby Day. 6-1 morning line, and we thought, okay, maybe this could be a solid play. It was bet down very hard that day. I believe went off 7-5. So at that point, it's like, wow, like you said, Bob, what's going on now? They wheeled him back. It looks like a questionable move. But I thought Bob Baffert really positioned this horse well, and at the end of the day, looked like one of the best on the card.
He did. He fought off a tough pace battle and dealt with, a surface that he had not dealt with before. So I think both of our horses that we mentioned have very bright futures, especially Justin Square. That horse looks like a monster. So let's move on to the 4 races on the Tournament Talk show for Friday, May 27th. And Andrew, let's actually start west tonight. Let's go with Santa Anita Race 10. It's a $125,000 stakes race. It's the Franz Valentine Stakes. It's 1 mile on the turf for 4-year-olds and up. It's a field of 8, and the horse drawing the rail, Smooth It, is your 3-1 morning line favorite. Andrew, do you feel like this Doug O'Neill runner is the warranted favorite, and is he the horse to beat?
I think he's the warranted favorite, I'll say that. I think he can be beat in this race. If the race was on dirt, then you have sheer pleasure going off, 8-5 coming out of that race, only beating a couple lengths by Beholder. But because we're on, the turf, Smooth It, number 1, well-deserved favorite, has a ton of class. But I think this mare can be beat. With that being said, I landed on number 7. That's Velvet Mesquite, 9-2 for Blake Heap and Tyler Bass. Coming off a little bit of a layoff, but this horse has a lot of class. If you look at this horses here, we got Prize Exhibit, Dreamologist, Sunday Rules, Go West Marie. Just a lot of solid horses in the back class. Now, granted, she does a lot of running on the downhill turf, and she's not going to get that today. She's going to go a mile over the oval. Look at these. Look at the horses' buyers. I'm seeing 92, 93 here in these stakes races. Lands back in that spot today. No longer in a greater race. I think 92 is great value. Looks like a lot of speed in this race, but I'm hoping this one has learned to rate rather than go to the lead like seen in prior races. If you look back up, you can see the success to rate, and I think that's what's going to be the best one for this one to win.
When I looked at this race, I saw a plethora of horses stretching out from 6.5 to a mile, and we've talked about this many times on the show since we've been doing it together, Andrew. My philosophy is, if they're showing speed at 6.5, they're certainly going to show speed at a mile, and you got other horses that have been running in a mile showing speed. So, all in all, I think this is going to be a very hot pace, and I think Smooth It is probably the most physically gifted horse in this race, but drawing the rail, I think Mario is going to be forced to gun it because you don't want to be a closer stuck inside a bunch of horses and then be blocked, turning for home and have nowhere to go and have all the horse. So I actually landed on a horse, tepidly, the 6 horse, Bert's Melody. Now, obviously, I don't necessarily like the jockey in this situation, but here's why I got on this horse. I liked the versatility that I saw on May 5th going a mile 8. Horse showed a lot of speed February 27th, going wire to wire in a $55,000 allowance race at this distance. Then showed a little bit of versatility, rating off of speed at a mile and an eighth, getting beat by only a half a length. And I think Blanc, if he can see the speed to the left of him, can have some wherewithal and just set this horse off of what I think is going to be a fast pace. And I don't take a lot of closers on the turf. You know that. And I don't know if this horse is going to necessarily be a dead closer, but he could be setting middle of the pack and hopefully smooth its compromise by your horse and other horses stretching out and just make one run and just pass a bunch of horses that might be coming back to him. I'll take 5-1 on a horse that I think the pace scenario fits his skill set.
Yeah, without a doubt. And like you said, Bryce Blanc may not be the hottest jockey out there on the Santa Anita circuit, but has rode this one with a lot of success, and I think that's going to be key. He knows this horse. Second off a layoff body, like you mentioned. This horse is definitely going to be a player here.
As far as exotics are concerned, Andrew, if you're playing a pick 4 or pick 5, I'm assuming you would include the one horse. Obviously, you would make the 7 your top selection. Any other horses you would include in some type of exotic wagering here?
Yeah, without a doubt. That'd be number 4, Madam Mouse, 10-1, second off the layoff. Santiago Gonzalez. He went down a couple weeks ago, but ever since he's got back on, he picked up right where he left off. He's riding ultra hot. Another horse that's going down the hill. That's where where she's had the success. Now she's going a straight mile. So we're going to see some difference. But Bobby, if that pace does set up how we think, this horse is a game closer. Stepping up in class, however, but a lot of next out winners in the running lines. If the pace does melt down, this is the horse, Bob, number 4.
Yeah, and like I've told you many times, they don't know what they're running for. And the pace scenario certainly could benefit the 4 horse, and I believe the 6 with the right ride. So let's move on to the last race at Santa Anita on the card, Andrew. It's race 11. DRF has it $50,000. Timeform has it $40,000. But nevertheless, it is a maiden claimer going 5.5 furlongs on the dirt for fillies and mares, 3-year-olds and up. It's a field of 10. And a very vulnerable favorite, in my opinion, is Don't Tell Judy at 5-2. Your thoughts on the favorite and why you think this horse is the favorite, if you agree with it?
Didn't have this one on my morning lines as the favorite. That horse was actually number 7, married to a minister who, I see on Twitter. A lot of the guys I respect from DRF's end. Well, a lot of guys are on this horse as their top pick. So that's who I actually thought was going to be the favorite. But number 8, Don't Tell Judy. I'm never, ever interested. I know this one's dropping from Maiden Special in for a tag, but I really cannot stand Los Alamitos races. I throw those races right out. Let's go back. Santa Anita in the fall gets beat by 20 lengths. Del Mar gets beat 11 lengths. Like we said, up in class in the Maiden Special weight, but those Los Alamitos races just show me nothing. If this horse beats me, she beats me, whatever. But I'm going to try to find a little bit of a price in here. I went to number 2, Flaming Vixen. The horse has been outside for most of her starts. Has really no good considering running lines here, but focusing on that March 24th race off the layoff, finished a game second, 3 wide in that race, second best in the running lines. Go back to the last race, that's May 7th. Even money favorite, 3 wide into the stretch, just no rally whatsoever. I think this horse being on the inside, going to be able to save some ground, sit a little closer to the pace, and hopefully Santiago Gonzalez, looking for that late double on my end, can bring this one home. I love the fact of throwing blinkers on this horse after going some questionable 3 wides there in the last few races, so hopefully the blinkers settle the silly down.
Like your pick, Andrew, and in fact, I was deciding between my top selection and the 2 horse, so we're certainly on the same page as far as the pace scenario and how we think this race is going to play out. I'm with you on the 8, and also I got to give you kudos. You took the words out of my mouth. It was one of the notes here. I mean, Los Al races, just throw them out. I mean, I have seen so many horses go off at shorter prices, not necessarily the favorite, but go off at shorter prices than what they should because they run a bang-up race at Los Al, and then they come back to Santa Anita and they run back to the way they'd been running before they got to Los Al. I mean, those numbers are so fraudulent. And I think bettors need to be cognizant of that, and they need to take advantage of that. I didn't really know how many horses wanted the lead here because you got a bunch of first-time starters, and pace is certainly a big deal to me. But I landed on the horse you mentioned initially, the 7 horse married to a minister. I mean, Stephen Miotti is hot. is fire right now, and he upgrades to what I feel like is the best jockey in California. I've told you this
100%.
via text. Rafael Bejarano for me, outside of Javier Castellano, I'd put him on every horse I had. And that's a huge jockey upgrade. I feel like 2 of the 3 career starts from this horse are good enough to beat this field every day of the week, especially that last effort against this type of group. And again, the jockey upgrade, I think, is going to make the difference. So as I mentioned to you, Andrew, it's hard to project the pace because of so many firsters, but a hot barn and what I feel like is the second best jockey in America. I'll roll the dice at a short price in hopes of moving on with a winner to the next leg and trying to find a price in my tournaments.
Without a doubt, Bob. And like I mentioned, married to a minister, to be respected, most will probably go off the favorite.
I think so.
But I think the horse is just definitely the one to beat. Bob, you mentioned we don't know who's going to really go out to the front end here. I saw number 4, Emmy and I, going out to the lead. Now, here's a horse coming second off the layoff. Showed speed in the debut of Flavian Pratt.
Okay.
Does that make first race at low sal? Like we said, not really interested. I'm crossing it out. If the horse shows speed like she did in the debut, I have to include in all my horizontal wagerings if I have some room. I'm sorry, my vertical wagerings, if I do have some room, I will include all my horizontal wagerings, but that looks like the horse to me that's going to go right out to the front.
Yeah, and I think you can tell a lot about horses that want the front end by how they're working in the mornings, especially with firsters in a race like this. If they're working 3 furlongs and 37, or if they're working shorter, I think you get an idea of what the trainers have in mind for these horses first time out. It's just a very difficult task to try to project the pace. So Andrew, give us your top selection once again.
Number 2, Flaming Vixen.
And I am on the 7, married to a minister, and you would go 2, 4, 7 in your exotic. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's move on to my favorite racetrack. It is beautiful, Belmont Park. Race 7 on the card. It's a $77,000 allowance, a mile and a 16th on the inner turf. And I mention that because these races seem to be ridden differently on the inner than the outer. For 3-year-olds and up, it's a field of 9. And Hello Don Julio, the 5 horse, is your 3-1 morning line favorite. For me, Andrew, I understand it. He seems to be the most physically gifted horse in this field.
Without a doubt, and to be respected, will most likely get another firm turf course. That's the only turf course he's won on. Obviously, we had a good yielding in the running lines and didn't really do too well. Was in the Pan American, we talked about that race a lot with Kagan and Wake Forest. But if this horse runs anything true to the debut on March 13th and is in fact a dead closer, I don't really know. I don't like taking short prices in wide open turf races, especially when I have to rely on a deep, deep closer like that. So if the horse is more forwardly placed, I think that gives him more of an advantage. But I can't take 3-1 or shorter on a dead closer in a wide open turf race. With that being said, I went to number 8, Mark My Style. This one goes second off the 5-month layoff after winning a very salty optional claimer last month. And overcame on a lot that day. Had a very bad break, but Louis Sayers gave him an incredible ride right on the rail to beat out a game. Uncle Cy and Chad Brown's 3-5 Startup Nation, who was returning that day as well. The horse should benefit this from a pace perspective. Only a few horses I see really going to the lead, so I think Mark My Style sits right off. And we should get closer to the 8-1 in my opinion. I'm looking at some other horses that I know are just going to take some money due to trainers and jockeys. But really, really interested in that 88 buyer last time out off the layoff. John Toscano, it's a low percentage barn, but he does have some great horses in here. If Louis Sayers gives a ride anything like last time, I think this horse is an incredible price.
Talk to me about the pace. Who do you see going to the lead, and how fast do you see him getting there?
Yeah, I see number 6, Circus Performer for Todd Pletcher. That one's going to go out. Captain Moss, Chris Engelhardt, the 4 horse. That horse is also going to be out on the front end. And I also have number 2, Performance Bonus, as well as the 1 Easy Comparison. Easy Comparison might just go out there and set, until that horse falls back because he doesn't have the speed to keep up with them. But he's going to be on the front end as well as number 2, Performance Bonus.
I read the pace completely different here, which is why I came up with a different horse. I saw this pace being relatively slow with a chance of it being a lone pace setter. I do think the one horse holds the keys to my car, if you will, on my top selection, which I landed on a horse stepping up in class as a 10-1 morning line. That is a 4-horse Captain Moss. Yeah. Here's why I did that, Andrew. I have ultra respect for Chris Englehart. I mean, this guy takes horses that may not cost as much as Chad Brown's horses and Todd Pletcher's horses and Shug's horses, and he's still winning at a high percentage, and he does it year-round. And he puts this horse back on the turf for the first time since September 7th of last year. And this horse wins like a good thing. Won by a length. I watched the gallop out. I was very impressed by that. Could have won by more than that, but Manny Franco realized the horse had the race won and pulled up on him. And then all of a sudden he takes him from a $50,000 claimer and puts him in a $77,000 allowance race with horses like Mark My Style, Tale of Fancy, and Hello Don Julio. That tells me one thing, that this trainer that I personally have respect for doesn't want to lose this horse. He thinks this horse has talent, and he puts him in this race. Obviously, I think he's going to be on the lead because he showed that last time out where he rated just off of it, and I think he'll be on the lead or right off of the one horse. Now, the one, to me, has not shown as much speed on the turf. If you go back in the running lines and look at this horse's turf races, he hasn't shown as much speed on the turf as he has the dirt. Now, some horses just don't like one surface over the other, and they run completely different. I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that the 4-horse can get this lead by himself. I don't see the 6 going to the lead like you do. So I think whether or not the 1 goes to the lead or not, the 4-horse is going to turn for home in front of who I feel like is the 3 best horses in this race, which is the 5, the 7, and your 8-horse, who I think is the horse to beat. Give me Englehart, give me Franco, give me double-digit odds on a horse that I feel like is going to be ahead of the other horses that we've talked about, and I'll take my chances with Captain Moss at 10-1.
Without a doubt, Bob, and I actually had to break it down between Mark My Style and Captain Moss myself. Had a nice win bet last time out. The horse was 3-1 last time out, but like you said, was much the best in that race last time. 2 for 2 over the inner turf. And like you said, Chris Englehart is a remarkable trainer who is not Todd Pletcher, Chad Brown, Steve Glaceris, any of those top New York guys. He is a great trainer. You can see the work he does. And because we see him often, in the claiming ranks, I think the point you mentioned, Bob, moving this horse up to a big allowance race makes me think there's a little confidence in the connections here. They don't want to lose this one. 43% win click with Manny Franco through 14 starts.
Right.
Everything's clicking here. So sitting right off the pace, the way you saw the pace obviously very much benefits the 4. I had the 4 in all my exotics regardless. So it's just a matter of who goes out, I guess, for you and I, Bob.
Yeah, and another reason, and I remember I mentioned the inner turf initially because the inner turf, especially last year, and I keep a book on, the inner turf comparison to the outer turf as far as how the paces run. Horses on the inner really benefited up front. It just seemed like the jockeys rode, and maybe it's a coincidence, Andrew, but it just felt like that the jockeys rode different races on the inner turf course than they did the outer, that horses on the inner who were on or very close to the lead held an advantage because these other jockeys either got lazy or just did not ride those horses from the back closer to the front of the pace in slow fractions. And for me, I think this race has a chance to be relatively slow, which I think falls into the lap of Captain Moss.
I agree. Bob, not to put you on the spot, but what did you think about Low Don Julio or number 6 Circus Performer?
I didn't like the 6 at all. I don't think his races are good enough to win here. And again, I know he was on the lead last time out, but he was on the lead at 1.5 miles. If you look at those races previously, he's 5 lengths off 7.5 furlong race, off a step slow. I know he endured some trouble. He was bumped at the start. I gave him another shot April 8th. In fact, this horse was part of my ticket, and I didn't think he had much of an excuse that day, especially with Florent Giroux aboard. As far as your 8-horse, Mark My Style, I think the horse is the horse to beat, and I think the horse is the most likely winner. As far as Hello, Don Julio is concerned. As I mentioned to you, I think he might be the most physically gifted horse in this race, but he's going to be coming from probably dead last. And again, he's going to be coming from probably dead last in a race that I don't think is going to have that much pace. So if he beats me at a short price, you tip your cap and say, good luck in the future. But I'm just not sure, Andrew, that horses that I just mentioned are going to have the pace that they need to win this race.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. Like you said, I think you get a great price on Captain Moss. I think I get a great price on my horse because I think all these horses, Hello Don Julio, I think Circus Performer takes a lot of money. Tail of Fancy should take some money after an awkward trip. And you're going to get money on the Chad Brown Ira T horse on the inside. So I think that just sets us up for bigger prices, Bob.
I agree. So give me your exotic play there. If you're, obviously if you're constructing a pick 4, pick 5 ticket.
Definitely, vertical wagering wise, I'll definitely have to box up Captain Moss, number 7, Tail of Fancy, getting back to the lead. Hopefully, that's the only reason why. And then number 8, Mark My Style. Looking at this pick 4, I would just single Mark My Style and go deeper elsewhere, in my opinion.
And I respect that. Again, I think Mark My Style is certainly the horse to beat. I just didn't have the 8 as close to the lead as you did, and we'll see what happens. If I don't win, I certainly hope it is you, my friend. So let's move on to last and certainly not least. It is Belmont Park Race 9, $77,000 allowance race, 6 furlongs on the inner turf for 3-year-olds and up. It's a field of 9 because of 2 main track onlys. Royal Asset, the 2-horse going dirt to turf off of a humongous layoff, is your 3-1 morning line favorite. Your thoughts on the 2-horse in this race as a whole?
Really wasn't interested in the Wesley Ward horse, though he does perform very well off the long layoffs. Just didn't see this one fitting in the picture here. Getting on turf for the first time, has a little bit of the pedigree for it, but really just wanted to beat him here. Turf sprint, off the layoff, just a bunch of things that are saying, stay away from a short price. I'm not saying the horse can't win the race, but just not for me at that price.
Right.
These turf sprints at Belmont really seem to bring in some good prices, so I'm hoping to catch one myself. With that being said, I'm actually going to mark this one as the best bet of my day. I'm in love with this horse. That's number 1, Dominic Smile. Comes off the bench just like the 2, but I can trust this one a little bit more. Has some incredible speed and should be able to wire this field, in my opinion. Undefeated turf sprinter, 3 wins and a third over the course. The addition of 3 for me of the entry with Castellano aboard the 1A, it's going to bring this horse's odds down a little bit, but this horse should be ready to run a huge race on the step up. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he's just a rabbit here for the 1A, but and then the 1A will come off the pace. But Dominic Smile is the horse for the course, the horse for the distance, and in my opinion, is definitely the quickest here. So I got Jose Ortiz, who, in my opinion, him and Kendrick Carmucho are the 2 best jockeys on the front end on the New York circuit. I'm getting the best jockey. I'm getting Steve Caceres, who I can definitely trust, although he's starting off a little bit cold. Tournament-wise, I get a little backup because I'm with the entry, although that's going to bring my odds down a little bit. But I really think number 1, Dominic Smile, is definitely the one to beat here.
You said you thought the 1, Dominic Smile, was the horse that had a chance to wire this field. I think the 2 horse is going to try to get to the lead, Andrew, as well. Whether or not he's fast as your 1, that's yet to be seen. How fast do you think they're going to go early?
That's the thing. I know the 2 is going to, go out on the front end. I'm just hoping he's tired or he doesn't like a turf, and he just needs one. But, if you look back, Dominic Smiles, setting 22 flat fractions and even being able to slow it down, to 45 and still win the race. So, hopefully, I had it right on my end, and he's just a better horse than number 2. I know they're both coming off the bench, and I can't say, I don't like this horse coming off the bench, but I like this horse coming off the bench. I just really think, based on what I saw last year from Dominic Smile, that he's going to have an advantage over the 2.
I don't know necessarily who should be the favorite here, Andrew, but I'm just going to knock the 2 horse here for 2 reasons. First of all, he hadn't raced on the turf since his, first start of his career, May 8th, and he certainly wasn't, impressive that day. Now, again, he had excuses. First start, and it's not Todd Pletcher or Chad Brown on the lawn. and he did hit the gate, but it wasn't that impressive at all. And then, again, he went to the dirt, and now he's switching back to the turf off a 224-day layoff, and you got other horses in here that are second off the layoff and have been proven at this distance previously and have, just as good a connections to a certain degree. So I thought the 2 was certainly a play against, whether you thought he was the horse to beat or not, especially from a tournament play. I landed on the same number as you, just the 1A instead of the 1. As I mentioned, there's quite a few horses in this race that are coming off of a long layoff, including your favorite, and there's no Chad Brown in here. And we talked about this the last time we did this show. I have no problem taking Chad Brown off a long layoff, but I have a problem taking everyone else off a long layoff. Now, sometimes I'm proven wrong, but I'm not too sure I'm going to be proven wrong today. 1A gets a significant jockey upgrade from Arroyo to Castellano, or back to Javier Castellano, if you will, because Javier has ridden this horse previously. He's been proven at this distance. He won a 6-furlong race September 16th, in which he was only 2 lengths off the lead. If anyone reads the form at an elite level from a jockey perspective, it is Javier Castellano, who I think everyone needs to agree is the best jockey in America. Yep. I think he'll see the fact that there is a potential of there not being a lot of pace in this race, whether it's the 2 or the 1 horse, and he'll set in that second tier and then make one run. I think this is the most talented horse in the race. 6-1 is laughable. We'll be lucky to get half of that. Exactly. But I think this 1A could set a good trip with the best jockey in the country, make one run, and pass a 2 horse, in which I think is very beatable. And then if it's 1A, we win either way. And I think it's got a big chance to run 1A1 or 1A.
Yeah, without a doubt, Bob. The thing that concerned me, 3 for me has shown some speed and the ability to wire fields. Now, the entry's coming off the layoff, and it's going to be only on the front end. The horse can't win anywhere else. 3 for me has shown the ability to rate and still win races. Like you said, Castellano's ridden this one before, much success. So, do you think my horse is the rabbit for this horse, or do you see it differently?
I wouldn't say that Jose Ortiz would ever get on a rabbit and set it up for somebody else. I mean, he leads the nation in wins. He's the youngest jockey to a certain amount of wins that we've seen in quite some time. He's not on horses to set it up for somebody else. But do I think it could end up being like that if the 2 horse shows the same type of speed on the turf as he showed on the dirt? It certainly could do that. Wouldn't hurt my feelings any, but again, it wouldn't hurt me if your 1 horse won either, because I'd have the winner either way. Yeah. But I don't think Jose is going to get on a horse with the instructions of setting it up for somebody else. I just don't believe that. I do have a question for you in regards to another horse. The 7 horse is, I think, your second choice at 7-2. Alvarado aboard, Disco Partner off of a 196-day layoff. Your thoughts on this horse being your second choice in this field?
Yeah, this one's going to be tough to beat. Hoping the layoff, the horse isn't going to like it. In the past, came off a similar layoff from 2014 to 2015. Finished 3rd. Granted, some good horses in that race, but I'm thinking the horse is just going to need one. James Ryerson, train I'm very high of when it comes to turf sprints. The barn has started off a little bit slow, but the horse is back to a turf sprint. Has a lot of class. I mean, if you look back at Belmont Saratoga races, this horse is chasing Ready for Rye, who in midsummer looked like the best turf sprinter there was on the boys' side. Of course, we had Lady Shipman prove us otherwise, but Ready for Rye made a great case for that, at least on the New York circuit. So a lot of class in this one's running lines, but another horse I think is just going to need one.
Exotic wagering is concerned, who would you go with here?
I'm just going to put the 1 on top and put some value underneath, definitely including the 7. I think the 8 for Bill Mott, who has been ice cold on the New York circuit. Maybe the horse can just close in like he's supposed to do. And that's another horse coming off a layoff. So we'll see. It's a very intriguing race, but, in my opinion, I might just put, 1 over, 4-7 and go all in the trifecta, just trying to catch something. I thought the 5 Root for Me, Justin, was pretty interesting. I got a notification on my email saying that this horse was, entered, and my notes were, great maiden race, hasn't ran a race since that was good enough. But, maybe the horse coming off the layoff has something, and that's the thing about there's so many horses coming off layoffs. I just, it's hard to put something on this. That's why I just hit the all button underneath.
And there's so many horses that I just don't feel like are going to be ridden aggressive out of the bell, and I think that's out of the gate. Excuse me. I think that's been Eric Cancel's biggest problem is that he's not aggressive, and he hasn't been since Saratoga last year before he lost the weight advantage. So I just think that it has a possibility of just running 1-2, 1A, or 1-1A, 2 all the way around the racetrack because I'm just not sure if these runners are ready off the lay, and I just don't think they're going to be ridden aggressively enough for something to come from off the pace. So Andrew on the 1, I'm on the 1A, so in the end we're on the same team. So there's that, and that will do it for this edition of Tournament Talk on the Tournament Edge. As always, we hope we found you a lot of winners. For Andrew Calvano, I'm Bobby Shoemaker, and as always, until next week, good luck.
Good luck, guys.